Heyo, Flame here, and welcome to the Flame His World playthrough of Slipstream. This one is a game that I'm going to be playing live. Let's turn that down a little bit in my ear because that came on quite loud. I'm still getting used to this whole recording games from the PC while recording stuff live, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. But, ladies and gentlemen, Slipstream is an indie game developed by Ansdor, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, that released in 2018. It was a Kickstarter game, and it's a game I consider to be a lot of fun. Because I do like my silly racing games, and I also really like this visual aesthetic that this game has going for it. But what I'm going to be doing is, like I tend to do when I cover racing games on this channel, I'm going to be playing through the Grand Prix, at least to start with. Might do some Grand Tour later, but to start with, let's go through the Grand Prix. We'll do all the cups in order. I'm going to start with the Ruby Cup. And I think, to start with, I will try out different cars. Like, they've all got different stats, at least in the main game they have different stats, so you will sort of enhance them over the course of the Grand Prix. But I'm going to start with the default Type 23 with manual drifting, and also because this game, at least from what I recall when I first played it, it was quite easy. I'm going to play on hard, so let's see how this will go. Have I got money wise? Well, let's just boost the speed, because sod it, I can. Next race, Morning City. So, you notice straight away the aesthetic they have going here. I absolutely love it. I know it's like, I guess it's not the sort of thing you see in the mainstream a lot, but there are a handful of indie games that like to go for this sort of pixely, pseudo 3D, nostalgic kind of look. I like it a lot, and I will say, to start with, I know this looks like all the other cars are sped ahead of me and I have no way of winning. That's intentional. That's how this game works. You will spend the first couple of laps just playing catch up with the other cars, because it's designed like that. What it encourages you to do is, you've got this really cool drift mechanic that I'm showing off there. You just take your finger off the acceleration button, quickly push the brake, and then put the acceleration back on, and you can speed your way through the corners. As we get closer to the other cars, we will start being able to use the slipstreams themselves to boost ahead, which is what the game's named after, so that's going to be a main mechanic. The whole look, really, what they're going for is they're going for an Outrun kind of look. If you think Outrun, I think it was on the Master System. There's been sequels on like basically everything, but it's got that sort of look to it, and that'll become more apparent when we get to some more of the daytime beach sort of tracks. But even just like the pixel art thing, they're kind of trying to pull that off. It's got a very Sega sort of influence to it, which I obviously like a lot. The music as well. The music takes the whole electronic vaporwave kind of sound, and it kind of partners up nicely. Like, this isn't the sort of thing that would have run on retro hardware. This is CD audio. Like, you could probably have pulled it off like on the Mega CD or something like that, but you wouldn't have got this coming out of like a Master System or a Mega Drive. I still can't say the phrase Master System. If someone who likes Sega as much as I do, that's kind of a problem when I do games like this. But yeah, speaking of Outrun, I will say I don't actually have that much experience with Outrun. I did briefly try the 3D Classics reissue that they brought out on the 3DS. Kind of didn't really get on with it as well as I do this game, because this game is actually very vaporwave in its build and whatnot as well, in the fact that it's an exaggerated, enhanced take on nostalgia. It's not just like repumping out what you know. Vaporwave in itself, it's kind of more going for the feeling of nostalgia rather than an accurate recreation of the thing you're nostalgic for, and like that comes from the music as well. Like, if you listen to vaporwave music, there's quite often that Like, it's hard to explain, but it's like that electronic mix of different sounds that may be representative of a certain era, but it's not actually from that era. They might use a few samples from classic pop songs and whatnot, but more often than not, it's just trying to evoke the feeling more so than it is trying to recreate it flat out. And I like that a lot. I feel like there's just a look and a sound of that kind of thing that this game tries to evoke, and it hits the nail on the head. And yeah, I really did fall for this game really quickly when I first played this. I did play this shortly after launch. I don't think I got it immediately, but I saw this on Steam and was like, yep, I need to play this. This game looks amazing. It paid off. I'm not sure how well the video footage is showing this, because YouTube does like to overly compress gameplay footage. But it's a very clean, sharp image, and it's also playing back a very smooth 60 FPS. It unfortunately doesn't go higher than 60, which is kind of a shame. I would like to be able to push it up to like 120 or something, given I have the monitor for it. But for a 60 FPS game, it is a solid, consistent 60. It is incredibly smooth, and the control is just like spot on as well. And I barely won that. I wonder if they actually patched this to make it more difficult, because I remember one of the bits of criticism that this game got shortly after launch was that it was very easy, so I don't know whether they would have patched that to make it harder. We'll see. So what other parts can we get? We have $9,000 to work with, so we can actually just boost everything. Let's get better tyres, better gearbox, boost the engine again. Actually, let's get a lot of speed. I like to go fast. And there goes all of my money. So up next is Ice Cap. So, ice level. It's gonna look absolutely beautiful in this art style. I love me some really pretty ice levels to start with, but when you got like really smooth pixel art ice levels, yeah, sign me the fuck up, you know? But I will say the name of the track, Ice Cap, keep an eye on that. You may notice a bit of a trend with the naming conventions of quite a lot of the levels in this game. It will start to make sense where their inspirations lie. In terms of other racing games, I've played a lot of racing games on the channel up to this point. I would say probably next to platformers and maybe Pokemon games. It's probably racing games that have got the most representation. I've played a lot of Mario Kart, I've played the Sonic races, I've done like All Stars Racing Transformed several years ago with Chris and Stephen. And last year I did Team Sonic Racing, which was also a really good time. It's a particular genre of game that I really like. I will say that is particularly in reference to these less realistic kind of races. I like to have a bit of a fantasy element to them. Like, that's not to push down other kind of races. Like, I do have some experience with more semi-realistic, I want to say, races. Like, I would say the most realistic I've gone is I've played a bit of Forza when I first got my Xbox 360, because my brother got, I think, Forza 2 when that came out. I think that was the first of the Xbox 360 ones. It was either Forza 2 or Forza 3, possibly both. I played a little bit of that, but I was also always bigger on the more fantasy races, whether that be stuff like your mascot races, Mario Kart, Sonic, stuff like I mentioned, whether that also be the ones where they use realistic design cars, but they go completely off the rails nuts with how the gameplay actually works. Like, on the PS2, I had Burnout. Again, another game that I got with the console, if I recall. If not with it, I got it shortly after. But that's the game that and a lot of the sequels as well, they just prioritised making the crashes look as cool as possible. So, like, that's the main reason why people like racing games. Like, unless you're like a racing enthusiast and you're into that kind of thing seriously. If you're just there for the spectacle of a racing game, then having a really cool smash up, that's that's like the appeal there. This is one thing I've noticed with the music, in that it does sort of fade out and then come back with the next track. I think that's actually intentional on multiple levels. There's the fact that this era, the kind of era that is trying to provoke nostalgia of, it would have been the cassette tape player in the car, and that's just how that works. You're not going to have looping music off a cassette tape unless you got like just a really long tape, like just with the same song burned on repeat like that. So it's like got that, but it's also in terms of the era of video games. If you've played certain disc-based games when they were starting to make use of CD audio, you may remember that some games wouldn't have proper looping because that was kind of difficult to pull off on a disc, at least to start with. It took a little while for looping technology to pick up. So there would be quite a few disc-based games to start with that when the song ends it would fade out, and then it would either restart the song or it would start playing a different song. So it kind of works on two layers there. This is absolutely an intentional choice. And in terms of the sound effects as well, like I know sound effects in a racing game, there's only so much you can do in terms of cars drifting, cars speeding along, like it's quite safe there, like there's not really much you could go wrong with, but it's balanced in a way that it's not overbearing compared to the music. Let's see what parts I can get before I carry on rambling. And I'm making a lot of money here, so let's catch up my gearbox a bit, get a bit more acceleration. Then I think I'm going to get more speed. I just like to go fast, and I've still got 600 left over for the next race. Emerald Hills, are you starting to pick up on the little motif they got going on with the track names? Because it is very obvious, like we got two already. But yeah, like it's balancing away the car drifting sounds. They're not too overbearing. You can hear the music over them, and that in itself, as well as being just a nice pleasantry, because like the music's really good, so I want to hear that. It's also does fit the mood they're going for. It makes it feel like a bit dreamy, I want to say. When it comes to the cars going along the road, vaporwave kind of aesthetic, like a lot of people say that it kind of triggers very distinct memories in their mind, or at least illusions of memories that they don't necessarily think they experience, but it's like such powerful imagery. That's kind of the main appeal of vaporwave from everything that I see around, and I will say I get that with this particular balancing, in that I kind of feel like being a young child who's very tired on the way home from somewhere and just sitting in the back of the car, not entirely awake but just seeing the streetlights going past, and maybe having some music on the radio that's a little bit muffled to me, both because like car radios back then didn't usually pick up the best reception, and that combined with the fact that I would have been almost asleep, I wouldn't be paying too much attention to it. I feel like that's kind of why it's so complimentary. I'm hitting everything there. I'm trying to describe this scene, this image scene that's kind of come to my head, and then on the screen you got me bouncing all over the place. Yeah, I realise it's not the most complimentary experience I'm giving you right here, but like it's that kind of imagery that the look and feel of this game evokes in me, and I feel like that's a very powerful thing, and I feel like they've absolutely grabbed the feeling that will connect to people beyond just it's the racing game that looks nice. I feel like there's that extra level that just reaches in and grabs you. I should probably try and pick up the pace a little bit here, because I'm doing a lot worse than I remembered. Like, I did actually do a couple of practice races before I started recording, so I should be okay. I don't have the I haven't played this in forever excuse, because I have. I played it like 20 minutes before I started recording the playthrough, but you know. I will say, in terms of the channel, the reason why I'm going to this, I felt like this would be just a fun little thing to come to after doing Professor Layton, which was a really big project for me compared to some of the other stuff I did, where I was doing loads of research, I was timing what I was saying when, so I weren't talking over the puzzles with stuff that weren't related. And then just to come to this and just be fun racing experience, you know, it's like, I like my tonal dissonance and this is giving me what I want, but I have been overtaken by basically everything, so let's try and ride the slipstreams a bit more. So you start spelling out the word slipstream at the bottom right, and that's when you know you're getting closer to the speed up that you want. I don't know whether there's a faster side here, because for the sake of being in front you will want to be on the inside, but I feel because it's twisting and turning so much, it probably balances out. I think. I don't know whether there's more insides on one side or the other. I don't know, like, I'm probably thinking about this far too much. This isn't really the kind of game you would play competitively, so I don't think it really matters that much. There's a Grand Tour mode which has a bit more of a bite to it than this. Oh shit, I'm right near the end. Yep, third. That's the first one that I haven't came first in so far, but maybe I'll pick myself up in the next race. Possibly. I feel like I've probably got a decent safety there. Like, yeah, I'm still on top for a little bit, but what parts can I get now? Better handling and better acceleration. I am winging this, and next up we have Monument Valley. So here we have our sort of canyon area. If you think of like the cool areas to drive in, a nice big mountainous canyon region, your Skyrail, your fucking Pumpkin Hill, because all I know is Sonic. This is the kind of areas that you would be driving in. And this is the other inspiration that you do see bits and pieces of sort of drifting in. This particular music track, it's going a bit less of the gentle electronic, and now this is a bit more Eurobeat. I'm a sucker for Eurobeat. I am perfectly okay with this. Well, let's try and build up the slipstream with maybe the next guy. There's one thing I will notice when I'm racing along some of these areas, in that sometimes you don't have enough space between you and the guy in front to build up the slipstream, and I feel like that can make it more difficult. So you do want to try and start tailing people as soon as they come on the screen, ideally, which is easier said than done. Alright, there's a guy there. I want to try and line myself up, but no, I'm too close to him. And so you want to try and ideally do this on the straights, not so much when you're going around the corners, because if you're going around a corner and a guy's there, you're probably going to crash into him and slow yourself down a lot. Well, I'd almost built up some speed and then I crashed, but I'm back on that slipstream bullshit, so let's see if I can do it. There are some very suspiciously similar logos going on there. There's one that I think is saying SAE or something that's very obviously the Sega logo. There's probably a few others that I'm not recognising straight away, but this game is not shy about showing its references. It's not shy about showing its intertextuality. Right, got a bit of a better setup going here than in the last race, so let's try and get to first. I want to get to first in all the others at least, so like I won't be a perfect like maxed out score, but I should be able to get high enough to be first overall, I reckon. Playing this now, I think I probably had just buggered up in that other race, so I feel like it probably is still as easy. It doesn't feel like it's been patched now. I'm a few tracks in and I'm getting into the groove of it, so I don't know, maybe it's just because it's a gameplay style that I've just kind of come to adapt to very quickly. Like, maybe other people who are not that way inclined might not pick it up as quickly as I did, but it's a very easy game in terms of the Grand Prix. I think what I'll do is, once I've showed off all the Grand Prix, I might do a bonus video where I show off like a couple of rounds of the Grand Tour mode, which is where it starts to get a little bit harder. Because in that mode you get rivals that it encourages you to try and overtake, and although the main drive of what you're trying to do is to just get to the end of the course, having that extra bit of motivation from a car that goes much faster than you do, it makes it feel a little bit more challenging on the whole. First place! Oh yeah. $36 points. Not bad indeed. I got 14-point lead over Kevin Beck there. I haven't actually had a look at these names. I imagine these are either people who worked on the dev team or maybe backers or something. What are we going to upgrade now? We're getting a lot of money, so we can upgrade a lot. But let's get a bit of that, bit more speed, because I like to go fast, and I reckon that'll do me. And here, third time in this fucking GP alone, here is Metropolis. So yeah, if you haven't clocked on to what I'm talking about, if you're like the one person who follows me who doesn't get it, a good, I want to say majority actually, from what I remember, a significant number of the tracks in this game are Sonic references. They're named after levels from Sonic games. So we've had Ice Cap, we've had Emerald Hills as a little nod to Emerald Hill from Sonic 2. And we've also got now Metropolis, also from Sonic 2. Thankfully this time around we don't have any slicers, we don't have shell crackers, we don't have them irritating little star enemies that fire things at you as you're running up the cog. Now we've just got a really sick, dark, nighttime racing stage. And this is aesthetic as fuck. It's one thing to have a cool racing game set during the day and just driving through the city, but come back to that city at night and it's so much more effective. Especially with this particular use of colour. They're not shying away from the solid black in the background there. It's not a pure black, it's like a sort of dark grey black. So it's not completely overshadowing any of the other stuff here, but it's dark enough that it makes the reds and the blues pop that much more. See there, I was a little bit close to the car in front, so I couldn't get the proper slipstream going, unfortunately. But I did there, and then I immediately drove into the wall. Now, I think when I edit this together, I'm probably gonna leave the music playing a little bit higher than I usually do in an LP, just because this music is such a big part of the game and I want you guys to hear it properly. And also because that's one of the things that I've become a little bit self-conscious of in some of my Let's Plays over time. I've noticed I have a habit of mixing the game music a little bit low sometimes, and that's mainly because I get worried about the music drowning out what I'm saying and making it hard to hear. But then I'll look back at stuff like my old Beyond Two Souls playthrough, and even like some of the earlier parts of Pokemon Y were really bad for it, because I was still getting used to recording from the 3DS at the time. But some of my old videos do have the game audio way too low, and it's like, these games, they all have really effective use of music, so I feel it's my duty as a Let's Player to show it off the best I can. But we live and we learn. I feel like some of my more recent videos have been getting better with that. Nope. Okay, I'm third, probably gonna lose this third shortly if I'm not careful, but I do have an extra lap, so hopefully I'll be able to work this out a little bit in the next lap. Okay, there. I was distracted by the guy pulling up next to me that I forgot to drift. Alright, just this red guy in front of me now. Come on. Like that turn felt like it was going on forever. Oh god, no. This is turns I'm probably gonna get second there. Unless I can pick up very quickly, but I don't think that's happening now, honestly. Nah. There we go, I was close. I wanted to get as many firsts as I could, but I got the second. He was 2 seconds ahead of me. But I was beaten there by Kevin Becker. All these cars spinning on the screen there are slightly out of sync, and I know that's a stylistic thing, but I should probably move on. There we go, we got the Ruby Cup. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me next time where I'll be going into the Sapphire Cup. I'll see you then for more Slipstream.